For years, you thought your friend was one of the kindest people you knew. They had this charm, a way of making you feel totally seen and valued. But then you start noticing things. Little things at first. A dismissive comment here, a cold shoulder there. Then one night it happens. You're out to dinner and you witness them being shockingly rude to a waiter. Later, they just brush it off. Just a bad day, they say. Not long after, you see it again, but in a totally different way. A small project at work goes wrong and they just fall apart. It's a whirlwind of blame, pointing fingers at everyone but themselves. And in that moment, it hits you. The person you thought you knew, they feel like a complete stranger. You're seeing who they really are, not the carefully polished version they wanted you to see. It's a deeply unsettling feeling, right? It makes you question your own judgment. How could you have missed the signs? Well, the truth is, we're taught to take people at their word, to judge the face they show us when everything's going great. But a person's real character isn't found in the spotlight. It's revealed in the shadows. It's not about what they do to impress you, but what they do when they think no one important is watching. So how do we see past the mask? Luckily, psychology gives us a lens to cut right through the performance. And it really just comes down to two simple but incredibly revealing tests. To get what these tests are all about, we need to dip our toes into the work of the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. Jung gave us a brilliant way to understand personality. He said we all wear something called a persona. In Latin, persona literally means mask, and that's exactly what it is. A social mask we show the world. It's the polite, capable, and agreeable version of ourselves we put on to fit in and get by. Having a persona isn't bad. It's a tool. It's the professional you at work or the charming you on a first date. But underneath that persona is what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is the unconscious part of us where we shove everything we don't like about ourselves. Our insecurities, our selfish impulses, our greed, our anger, our weaknesses. It's all the stuff we and society have labeled unacceptable. As Jung put it, everyone carries a shadow, and the less you acknowledge it, the darker and denser it gets. The goal isn't to get rid of the shadow, that's impossible. A healthy person is someone who is aware of their shadow and tries to understand it. But when someone completely denies their shadow, it doesn't just vanish. It runs the show from behind the scenes, popping up in weird and destructive ways. Jung famously warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This brings us to our two red flags. Now, you might have seen a quote floating around the internet attributing these two tests to Jung. While he never said it exactly like that, the principles behind it are the absolute bedrock of his theories. These two situations are so powerful because they create cracks in that perfect persona, letting the shadow leak out for everyone to see. They're the ultimate character test. Red flag 1: how they treat those who can do nothing for them. The first, and maybe the most famous, sign of a person's true character is how they treat people they have nothing to gain from. You've probably heard of the waiter rule. A person who is nice to you but rude to the waiter is not a nice person. It's a simple observation, but it's like a window straight into their soul. Let's go back to that friend. Picture the scene. You're at a slammed restaurant on a Friday night. The waiter who comes over is young, maybe a college kid, and you can tell he's just trying to keep his head above water. He's polite, he smiles, but he's overwhelmed. In the rush, he accidentally brings your friend a regular Coke instead of a diet one. A tiny, forgivable mistake. But your friend's reaction is anything but tiny. The smile on their face just evaporates, replaced by this tight, irritated scowl. They don't just point out the mistake. They let out a huge, dramatic sigh. "Can't you get anything right?" They might snap, their voice dripping with condescension. The rest of the meal, they treat the waiter less like a person and more like an incompetent obstacle. What you're seeing in that moment is the persona crumbling. With you or their boss or anyone they see as important, your friend is probably kind and patient. Why? Because it benefits them. They want you to like them. They want a promotion. Their kindness is a strategy. But the waiter, they hold no power. In that power imbalance, your friend feels anonymous, like there are no consequences. The need to perform kindness disappears, and what's left is the raw, unfiltered shadow. A shocking lack of empathy, a massive sense of entitlement, maybe a deep-seated superiority complex. Psychologically speaking, people who do this consistently often lack genuine empathy. Their worldview is all about them. Their kindness is a switch they can flip on and off depending on who they're talking to. And this isn't just about waiters. It's about how they treat janitors, customer service reps, rideshare drivers, or junior employees. It's a pattern of looking down on anyone they think is useless to them. Now look, anyone can have a bad day. A single instance of being short isn't the whole story. What's really telling is what they do after. Do they say, "Wow, I was really out of line. Stress is no excuse"? That shows self-awareness. That's someone trying to deal with their own shadow. But if they say, "Well, the service sucked. He needs to learn to do his job," then you're seeing something much darker. You're seeing someone who not only acts on their worst impulses but believes they're right to do so. Red flag 2: how they handle small failures and adversity. Okay, on to the second, equally powerful test. How does a person handle things going wrong? When life is a smooth ride, it's easy for anyone to seem calm and confident. But it's when things get tough that our true colors come out. Adversity doesn't build character. It reveals it. Let's check back in with our friend. This time, they're hosting a dinner party. They've been talking it up for weeks, planning the perfect menu, bragging about some fancy new dish they're gonna make. But on the big night, things go sideways. The main dish is a total disaster, burned on the outside, raw on the inside. A small failure, really, something you could just laugh off. But your friend isn't laughing. The cheerful host is gone, replaced by a sullen, irritable stranger. And their first instinct isn't to solve the problem. It's to find someone or something to blame. "This stupid oven is broken," they declare, slamming the door. "And someone kept distracting me." The whole vibe of the party just dies. They can't take responsibility for one little mistake because their ego is so fragile that even a tiny crack feels like a catastrophe. This reaction is the shadow bursting out. When things go wrong, all the energy they were using to hold up that perfect mask gets redirected to dealing with stress. The mask slips, and you see their real coping mechanism. What does this kind of reaction tell you? It reveals a serious lack of resilience. It shows they tend to see life as something that just happens to them, instead of something they have control over. People who instantly blame others for their own failures are usually hiding a deep fear of being inadequate. Their ego is a house of cards, and they'll throw anyone under the bus to keep it from falling. It might be obvious blame, like with the oven, or it can be sneakier, like self-pity. "Why do bad things always happen to me?" Now, contrast that with a healthier response. A more mature person might look at the ruined dish, take a breath, and then just laugh. "Well, so much for my masterpiece. Who's up for pizza?" That shows humility and resilience. It shows their self-worth isn't tied to being perfect. They can own a failure and move on without sucking all the joy out of the room. So watch people when things don't go their way. When they get a flat tire, when their flight gets canceled, when they lose a game. Do they get cruel? Do they start complaining and playing the victim? Or do they take a breath, accept it, and handle it with some grace? Stress is not a free pass to be a jerk. These moments are a direct broadcast from their shadow self, telling you exactly who you're dealing with. So what's the big takeaway here? Understanding someone's true character isn't about finding some hidden monster. It's about seeing the whole person, the polished mask they wear, and what's hiding right underneath. These two red flags, how they treat people with no power and how they handle adversity, aren't for making snap judgments. They're for deep observation. They reveal a person's capacity for empathy. They expose their emotional resilience. They tell you if their kindness is real or if it's just a performance. They show you whether someone has done the hard work of facing their own flaws, or if they're letting their unacknowledged shadow run their life. And here's the really tough part. This isn't just about looking at others. It's about looking at ourselves. How do you treat the overworked cashier? How do you react when your plans fall apart? The privilege of a lifetime, as Jung said, is to become who you truly are. That journey requires the courage to look into our own shadows. By paying attention to these moments in others and in ourselves, we can build relationships based not on an illusion, but on the messy, imperfect, and much more meaningful truth of who we really are. If this video gave you a new perspective, do us a favor and hit that like button. For more deep dives into the psychology of human nature, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever seen these red flags in action? Share your story below.